breaches overall are expensive. The average cost of a breach here was $4.2 million, which is quite a lot. For a mid-market company, that's, I guess, survivable. But for a small business, that could be the end of the business. And, when you think about, some of the experiences that we've seen, we had a law firm, 30 employees, CryptoLocker attack, this is many years ago now, didn't have backups in place, didn't have the adequate backups in place, and the whole business stopped for 3 weeks. And immediately hundreds of thousands of dollars a day was impacted for their business. Not only is the internal ability to deliver work impacted, but for organizations that are in the mid-market or larger, very quickly these can now turn into a media issue, as we are seeing. And so it's not only the big companies anymore, it's now mid-tier companies that are being splashed across the media when there's a problem. There's big fines on the way as well for businesses. I don't know if they're going to throw any CTOs in jail, but the businesses themselves are going to receive pretty hefty fines. These have not yet been implemented, so they're not yet enforced, but there's basically pretty serious fine structure coming in place for larger fines to be imposed for organizations that are not protecting data. And the real reason for that is that we're becoming a more privacy focused culture. And when we're a privacy focused culture, the end users, whether that be our customers or other people's personal information that we're holding, they basically don't want to have that breached. And so they're putting pressure on the government to get more serious about this. And, that trickles down to us as organizations. You can see here that the fine is up to 30% of your annual revenue for a year. And with most organizations not running anywhere near 30% of net margin, that's pretty darn impactful. Without cash reserves, that could also mean the end of a business, even for a large organization. You also end up on the naughty list, which is public, which you don't want. So how do we approach this strategically? How do we avoid this risk, and how do we approach this internally as technology leaders? The Australian government has brought out a really great framework called Essential 8. And this really gives you a guide on what are the different areas for you to be focusing on as you build out your security strategy and as you protect your users and protect your customers as well. And this is actually pretty easy to understand. It's been released fairly recently. So if you haven't already had a read of it and checked it out and started modeling some of your strategy around it, this would be a great time to do that. What we deploy for our customers in strategy is all aligned to the Essential 8 principles. So even if you're outside Australia, you may have your own specific guidelines. Europe are obviously extremely privacy focused. The US also have some guidelines as well if you're in North America. But these are the fundamental principles that we rely on. And there's some pretty cool things with Essential 8. One of those being if you're rolling out Chromebooks or Chrome devices to your users, 2 or 3 of these don't actually apply, like Microsoft Office macro settings, because they just don't exist on Chrome devices. And so this is a really great framework. We use this as a guide, and you'll see some of these concepts kind of sprinkled into the technical delivery of what we're sharing today. So there's different levels to Essential 8. It's effectively like different levels of compliance. So you would start at getting to compliance with level 1, then you would move to compliance at level 2. Finally, you would move to compliance at level 3. And as Adrian said, as you implement security processes and security controls, you can then report those back to your insurer. And hashtag I'm not a lawyer, so I can't officially give you advice. But what that allows you to do is potentially negotiate with your insurers to demonstrate your compliance with security principles and good security practices, and that will potentially help the business cost-wise. Adrian, did I miss anything on this slide? Because I know this one is a bit technical with Essential 8.
No, I think it's good to explain that it's a bit of a journey as well. So it's not only about getting to compliance, but it's also ongoing maintenance of that. So there's quite a few things around. First, you need to get to that compliance with audits and so forth, and then implementation, then ongoing maintenance to stay compliant as well. And this journey can take, to get to level 3, could be anywhere, if your business is on the smaller end, could be within 6 months, but generally speaking, with the mid market, it should be probably 6 to up to 24 months to get all the way through to level 3 compliance. It's a bit of a journey, but well worth it in the end. The security controls are very tight when you get to level 3.
Yeah, and that's using, once you get to those upper levels, obviously you're using the enterprise SKU of Google Workspace because you're using features like end-to-end encryption on emails. You're locking down accounts with advanced protection for key people in the organization, IT administrators, chief executives, those kind of people who may have additional, access. It's using some of the specific features of the enterprise SKU to lock those down. If you're more of a smaller business, so like you've got less than 20 employees in the business, then starting with the basics is still a really great place to start and very important as well. Even small businesses are being attacked, even not just accidentally, but very deliberately by third-party actors. And unfortunately, we're seeing pretty high instances of people stealing mobile phone numbers and porting them to other carriers. Once they have your identity, they steal the phone number. Then they've got two-factor, backup access to your account. If you've shared a password, and many people still do that, they're sharing passwords between accounts, and then, hey presto, they're into a Google account pretty easily. And you may think, oh well, what's the risk of just getting into my Google account? And unfortunately, we're seeing very, very commonly happening someone impersonating a staff member. That old scam. They email the director of the business and say, hey, I need this urgent shipment payment made, so the shipment can be released for XYZ supplier. They're using the supplier name that you recognize. They're using a process that you recognize. They're using invoice amounts that you recognize, but it's going to a bank account number that is not your usual number that you would be sending it to. So even for small businesses, this is important, and at least aiming to get to something like the level 1 of compliance is a good move for everyone.